Hi, today we're at Synergy Industries and we are going to go through the Lincoln air motor that is on the 10K grease pumps. It is a reciprocating air motor, and one issue that can come into play when you're using this product is that it can have a sticking pilot spool or a main spool. On top of the pump you will see, and you can disassemble using a 3/16 Allen wrench and a 7/16 Allen wrench are the two tools that you can use. You can also use a big Allen wrench to help you dislodge the main pilot spool that's inside there. It's typically fairly tight, and it has got O-rings all the way around on each of the lands. So what you would typically do is take off the bolts that are on the top part of the assembly. You can see that assembly is kind of an L-shaped casting, and once you remove that, you'll see that there's a urethane disc. It's really important that the parts that come off this be reassembled in the same way. There's also an oblong O-ring that's right here and two small O-rings that are right here. So once you disassemble that main spool part, then you next, using your smaller Allen wrench, you can take off the bolts that are on the side. And when you first get this assembly, before you start this disassembling process, one thing that you can do is you can go over to the main assembly with the air connected, and you can manually push there is a manual operator on each side of this spool, this pilot spool, to push the spool back and forth. And you can use a small Allen wrench and actually manually, by pushing it, actuate that assembly. Okay, so if you walk up to an air motor and it's doing a hissing noise and it's not working, the first thing you want to do is get a small Allen wrench and push on either side of this pilot assembly, and that will actually actuate and start the reciprocating process. If the pump is still not working, then you want to go through these disassembling procedures. So you'll take this first piece off, and then you can take these two pieces off. Notice there's a couple small parts here, obviously two bolts, and then there's an O-ring that goes around the main assembly that you can push in and out. Inside of this assembly is a small spool, and what you can do is, using the small piece, just push the spool out. You can pull it out and try to put it in the exact same way, and what you'll see is one side has a small hole on it, one side does not, and so that'll be the way that you want to make sure you push it back in the correct way. So you'll mark which way you have that. You get some general purpose grease and just grease up these O-rings, and then reassemble, put it back in. That's as simple as it is right there. You'll see that there is also a small O-ring here and here, and that is to exhaust the pilot assembly on each side when it's going through its reciprocating process. So you'll see on the piece that you take off that there is one end that has a hole in it, so that goes up against this O-ring. So when you reassemble, you'll put that against there, use the bolts, and continue to use your small Allen wrench and reassemble that application, that piece back into the assembly. Once you've reassembled the piece, you'll do the same thing with the other side, making sure you do the same thing, putting that hole against this O-ring over here, and then you'll put that assembly back together. The main spool, it'll be a little bit difficult to push the spool out, but when you push, you can use something that's not metal would be preferable, but you want to use something to push it out, and you'll see that it has a spool. One side will have a hole in it. Usually that's the side that is on the opposite end of the L assembly. So these two sides go together, and the hole goes on the back side of the assembly. So you'll see that it has several lands that is through here, and you'll get some grease and just grease each O-ring. Then what you can do is put the O-ring, again putting the bottom side down, and you'll see that as you push down on this, you'll just feed it right into the assembly. and sometimes it'll stick a little bit, and you'll just want to push it down gently, making sure that you try not to scar up, but move the assembly in each direction down. Once you get that assembly down, you'll kind of have to pop it just a little bit, and then take something, and once you get it inside, it'll depress just a little bit, and that's in the middle. So you'll be able to freely push that spool back and forth. Once you do that, leave it at one side, and then you'll reassemble the unit back together, making sure all the O-rings are part of the assembly. Once that's done, again, you can hook up air to it and manually start the assembly and push it back and forth to actuate it out and in. This concludes this presentation. Thank you.